Botany Explorers presented by the Danbury Library, where each month we visit a park in our area and learn a little bit about plants along the way. This month we're looking at the Connecticut College Arboretum. Connecticut College Arboretum is around an hour and 50-minute drive down I-84 from Danbury. It's a bit of a ways out. It's also quite large, made up of 750 acres of gardens and arboretums. The Connecticut College Arboretum was established in 1931 and is located on the Connecticut College campus. The part we're focusing on today is the native plant collection. This section is made up of 20 acres of trees, shrubs, and woody vines that are native to our area of the country. There are 353 species of plants found in the native collection. While some of them may be unfamiliar to us, others are ones we see regularly, even if we don't realize we do. Have you seen any of these type of plants while wandering around outside? Maybe you've seen them in your neighborhood, or if you're out in the woods. Some of these are shade bush, dogwood, azaleas, mountain laurel, the giant rhododendron, sourwood, sweet pepper bush, as well as various evergreens and conifers. Trails leading around the collection offer the chance to experience these beautiful trees and shrubs in a relaxing atmosphere. The Egerton and Stengel Wildflower Gardens is filled with native lovely flowers that take turns blooming throughout the spring and summer months. The Connecticut College and Arboretum is open every day from dawn until dusk. So we've mentioned the word native in reference to plants a lot so far today. But what does that actually mean when we're talking about plants? What is a native plant? Well, a native plant is a species that grows naturally in an area and environment. So all those plants that are in the Connecticut College's native plant collection are ones that are local to our area and have evolved to live in our climate. When a plant is native to an area, it has no bad effects on the ecosystem. It doesn't take up too many resources from other plants, and it doesn't affect the local wildlife in any harmful way. In fact, many of the animals in an environment actually rely on the homes and the food they can get from various plants that they've evolved alongside with. So, certain insects and birds and animals rely on certain plants that are native to their area where they live because they have both evolved to live and need each other. Now, plants that are not local to an area, they fall under two categories. One is introduced and one is invasive. Both introduced and non-native plants are ones that have been brought into an area where they weren't initially at. Now, this happens when we decide that we see a pretty plant that we don't usually see in our area, and you're like, oh, I want to grow that in my garden. So we bring that into our garden and place it in the ground, and now we have an introduced species. It's not native to our state, but we brought it in so that we can enjoy it. Plants can also be introduced by accident. Their seeds can be spread on our clothing or even our cars if we go into other areas in other states. We can also accidentally bring seeds back from other countries by shipping things back and forth. So, if we're getting stuff like food and products from another country, their seeds may be included in those packages. And if we send things out, we might be including some of our native species. This is how plants intermix and actually spread across the world. Sometimes also we can have seeds that will escape from research centers. So if we've got an arboretum that is actually researching a certain type of plant and part of those seeds manage to get out, well, now we have an introduced species. As soon as they can burrow into that soil and get nice and cozy and start to sprout, it's now establishing itself and it can send out runners and additional seeds and spread. Now, many of these introduced species aren't actually problematic. They don't have any massive effect on the ecosystem. They're easy for us to control, and they don't really harm any of our local plants, wildlife, or insects. Invasive species, on the other hand, are problematic. These guys are troublemakers. And the reason is because they grow so out of control that they actually start to compete and choke out native species. So, if we have things like, say, English ivy in our yard, well, we found that it's very hard to get rid of, isn't it? Yeah, we keep cutting it down and we keep spraying it and it just grows back. And it can take over a plant bed and even our whole yard and even start climbing up our trees. And they can choke out plants that are supposed to be there because they just grow like mad. These are also plants that nothing in our area eats very well, so they don't have any natural predators. Since there's nothing to help control the growth, they kind of spread like mad. Each state has listings of native plants as well as invasive plants to help gardeners out. So for instance, while the Japanese honeysuckle is a beautiful smelling plant, a quick search on our local databases will show that it is an invasive plant for the state of Connecticut. It's very hard for us to control and it can easily spread and choke out our native species. So, if we want honeysuckles in our garden, it's best for us to plant the trumpet honeysuckle, which is native to Connecticut and helps our local hummingbird population. Today, we're going to make a greenhouse. What we need is 2 paper plates, some paper towels, a plastic zip bag, a glass of water, scissors, tape or a stapler, markers, and some beans. Now the first thing we need to do is going to be kind of dull. We need to fold our beans up into a piece of paper towel, and then we need to tuck that paper towel with those beans inside into our glass of water and let them soak overnight. I told you it was going to be kind of boring, huh? Yeah. But we need to do this because that's going to prime those beans and get them ready to sprout when we put them in our greenhouse. So the next day has come and we've got our beans in our water. But now we need to build the greenhouse so we can put those beans into. To start, we need to take our 2 paper plates and cut the middle section out of both of them. Once we've done that, we can now decorate them. This is where we can get all fun and creative with those markers. Now that our paper plates are all colorful and ready, it's time to put everything together. We're going to tape or staple the sides of our plastic bag to one of the paper plates. And we need to remember to leave the top of that bag free of staples and tape so that we can open and close it. So that's how we're going to put our beans in. Now what we want to do is we've got that other paper plate, don't we? We do. So what we're going to do is we're going to staple that second paper plate to the first paper plate. And again, we need to make sure that we don't staple the top of that bag closed because we want to be able to open and close it. We're going to put our beans and that paper towel inside the plastic bag. It's going to be kind of wet and squishy, but that's good because we want that wet and squishy in order to have lots of water for those beans to soak up. So we're going to stick that in there, and if you want, you can move your paper towel around so you can see your beans a little bit better. Once the beans and the paper towel are all tucked up in there nice and safe, you're going to want to snap that little top closed. So that way none of that water can get out. We now have a greenhouse with our beans inside. But we're missing something. We need sunlight. All plants need sunlight to grow. So to help our beans sprout, we should tape or set our greenhouse in a sunny window so that they'll get lots of light onto those beans. Once we've done that, we need to check our greenhouse each day because we want to make sure that that paper towel inside is not drying out. If it dries out too much, well, our beans aren't going to grow because they don't have any water. So if we see it's getting a little dry in there, we can open up that bag and add some water inside of it, just a little bit to make that towel moist. We don't want to drown our beans. And then we close it back up again and set it back in the window. Within a week, you should start seeing some sprouts popping out of your beans. Thank you for joining me this month on Botany Explorers. Until we meet next time, happy exploring and stay curious. Bye, everyone.